All right. It's about that time for me to start speaking because there's too much going on. I have too much on my mind. There is an attempt to completely fraud the American people, censorship. We're talking about voter fraud on massive levels. Um, it's been a very interesting year so far. But I'm launching a channel called Crayonmouth. This is Keen James. That's where you'll find most of my content. As far as speaking on political issues, I'm keeping the music channel uh, just for music at this time. Of course, my political commentary will be interlaced with the music, but for purely conversational purposes, Crayonmouth will be my new hub for communicating with people. Unfortunately, YouTube will not let you go live until you have 1,000 subscribers. So, it's going to be a while before I can actually start live streaming. It'll be me and my friend Thomas, and we'll be discussing various issues regarding culture and politics. Also, in general, just pop culture, the lexicon that we're all stuck in. I really want to get down and start discussing the war that happened amongst the American people. The casualties of that war have been families. People are no longer communicating with their families over politics. I really don't feel like that's a justifiable thing. You shouldn't be canceling family members because of the way they voted. That's a kind of a fascist way to go about things in the way that you're conducting yourself. I've seen so many people say that the Trump voters were pieces of shit, were garbage, that they have have all of this bad stuff coming to them, and it's just so disturbing to hear these people be so hateful and all of the things that they've said that they hate about the right, about Trump supporters, they have actually become what they hate in the way that they conduct themselves, in the way that they've casted Trump supporters into the garbage can as far as they think of what their humanity is. Now, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. There's no, I have both wings so I can fly. They just fall to the ground when they leave the nest. That's why they never want to leave the nest. You have to understand that what's really happening in our society is division. It's groupthink that is tearing us all apart. And if we don't really start thinking about what that's going to do to us as a society, then we're going to lose. We're going to self destruct as a country. So, when someone has voted for Trump, you shouldn't look at them as, what do they call them? Deplorables? They're just human beings just like you. They have political beliefs that are similar to yours in so many ways. that if you actually talk to them, you just you just don't know what you're doing. You're causing damage to yourself, your own integrity. You're causing damage to your family. You're causing damage to the fabric of humanity. And I really just hope that people get a grip on themselves. The hatred that seems to consume the souls of Democrats is disturbing to me. And this is why I'm no longer affiliating with any party. I want to be completely autonomous. I don't follow groupthink. There won't be any of that when you listen to my content. It will be a position that is not left nor right. I don't care if you don't think I'm a socialist. I don't care if you don't think that I'm a patriot. Not into Q, not into MSM. I'm into facts. And the truth is that when all of these people begin to wake up and realize the hatred that they've shown to people, I only hope that perhaps they could find it within themselves to humble themselves and make things better. Because for now, it's all lost. Your humanity and integrity are gone if you are judging people by the way that they voted. If they didn't vote, that's actually a wise decision. Because if you don't vote, how can anyone hold you responsible for what is happening in our government? The responsibility lies on those who lifted those people into power, not the people that didn't lift them into power. Now, this is just an intro video. There will be a lot more discussion coming up. This coming week is going to be very interesting. On Monday, we will find massive evidence for election fraud through the software Dominion, which is basically a Democratic-owned ballot counting application program. Nancy Pelosi, her executive chief of staff for her is actually the CEO of Dominion. And Dianne Feinstein, her husband, is heavily vested in the Dominion software. He's a top investor, you could say. There's just so much information that's coming out right now that I don't even know where to begin. Follow Zach Voorhees on Twitter if you want to keep up with the latest of what's really going on with the frauding of America and the election, as well as the censorship that's coming from Google, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. It's getting difficult to even go on Facebook anymore because everything is so censored. There is no freedom for you to express yourself about the things that are important to you anymore. And ultimately, I see everyone moving away from these platforms as they exercise more censorship. If, in fact, Trump doesn't win this election, and I think he will, we're going to see a lot more censorship, a lot more authoritarianism, a lot more fascist dictates coming from our leaders, and there will be no one to fight against that. What we haven't understood in all this time, that we've been full of hate is that as abrasive as Trump may be, so are we. As rude as he is, well, we're pretty rude too. When he can't express himself, I see a lot of Americans that have difficulty finding the proper words to express themselves. So, Trump is very much like all of us, but he's really rich, right? So that means he's powerful. But what people haven't really taken into account is that when it comes to power, the more money you have, the more power you have. With affluence comes influence. So the most powerful Republicans and the most powerful Democrats in the world have all backed Biden. And when the most powerful people in this world that have worked against you your entire life are all telling you to do one thing and vote one way, then you should vote the other way. I think that what most people don't understand because of their hatred, because of the way that the media has amplified every little mistake that Trump makes, is that perhaps this whole time he's been a little more like us, and that's why they hate him so much. He's been feckless when it comes to starting new wars. He's horrible at it, and that's bad for business for Democrats. When it comes to controlling the narrative, he won't get on board with what mainstream media is telling us. And that is unacceptable to the powers that be, such as the Murdochs that own Fox. Fox is not a pro-Trump channel. There is no mainstream pro-Trump channel. And, I'm not a big Trump supporter. But at this point, you just have to realize that the censorship that he faces is the censorship that we face. So even if I didn't vote for him, I still would prefer to see Trump win over Biden, who has bombed countries in Latin America and the Middle East. I have friends and family from all over the world that have been affected by this. Everyone that's proud of Biden winning must not have had the same experience that I did in the 90s when my family members were locked away in prison for years for low-level drug offenses, when they actually should have been going through rehabilitation. But with maximum penalties for these crimes and maximum sentencing requirements that were actually incentivized in the 90s and on to now. People just need to see the damage that Biden has done to black and brown people. We are back to the Dixiecrats, the same party that started the KKK. It's very interesting that minority voters showed up in force to vote for Trump this time, and white Democrats showed up in force to vote for Biden. Now, when you look at that, what does that say about where we are as a country when the Republicans actually, even if they were just humoring the black community, actually decided to go ahead and put an agenda for blacks on their platform, while Democrats said, let's wait till after the election. That's inaction. Immediate action is necessary for our society to improve. The Democrats have always just pulled us along on a string. stringing us out and saying, it's going to come. This new world is going to come. It's going to be so fantastic and great. And they never do anything to enact that change. Hope became hopeless. Change became chump change. They gave all the money to their rich friends when they bailed out Wall Street. And yet people still pay fealty to these monsters. I think that ultimately a lot of change is coming to our country, and a lot of it's going to be bad. Some good, some bad. If the Democrats win and people like AOC are actually making a list of people who supported Trump so that they can remember them, that kind of sounds like Nazi Germany if they're starting to make lists. I've seen more hatred come from my blue no matter who friends than any of my Republican friends when it comes to discussing the facts, the truth, and just demonstrating logic. I don't know where this country is going to go from here, but I do know that I want to be part of the conversation, and I won't be silenced anymore. There is way too much quiet. I am a pro Tulsi supporter. I am a Tulsi-crat, and these things will be part of the way that I carry myself and my behavior when I discuss these issues. And if you don't know, Tulsi's whole thing is leading with love, having logic and understanding for the people around you. It doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are. The Aloha movement is to respect all, regardless of their political beliefs. As a matter of fact, I just wish so much that we didn't have to talk about these sorts of things. But as long as this much corruption is going on, this much chaos and censorship, it's important for us to get every single voice that we can out there to speak. I'm disabled. I can't run for office. Most days I can't even get up and walk. But I can get up and talk. So this is going to be my contribution to America. My conversations with others. And I hope you'll all join me, and I hope you'll listen. More content to come. Thank you.